Okay, we're live. We're live.
So we're live, yeah?
Yo.
Oh, yeah.
There's your logo, top left corner. Boom.
You can see all of that, yeah?
Yeah, it's live.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, man. Welcome, everybody. Talk to the Titans. Big up to Callum and them, man, still.
Remember, you need to wait. You need to wait a couple of seconds for a few viewers to come in. That's something that people do quite often.
Yeah. People going, hey, still. A part of me is like, yo, when they watch the replay, they can just catch up from there, you get me?
Yeah,
No
you're right.
Even know.
Do that.
Yeah. Hey, man. Yo, this brother's back on my case, you know, fam. Yo, is people in the stream now, yeah? People are in the stream now, innit?
Let me check.
Right now, it says no viewers on air still. From where I can see, fam. I see a few people in still.
It says verbal intercourse pre-show test live stream. So you got test.
That's what the title says.
Yeah.
I need to change the title, you know. Let me see if I can change that from air still. I ain't a test no, even though it's up in the air, you get me?
Mate, your title's a logical fallacy, mate.
Yeah. That's what I should have put in there still. Hey, I don't know how to change the thing though, you know. Use that shake facts, yeah. We got my brother shake facts.
Here we go.
We got our first viewer, baby. We live, baby.
Smiley face in the thing. Here we go.
All right, let me go to the YouTube dash screen.
Free watching now. So we got a big crowd. Hey. Let me put a like on the thing. There you go.
Yeah, we'll start the show still. We're gonna start the show still. Yeah. As I was explaining to the man then behind the scenes. Even in the building. You get me? On the panel with man, on man's first live stream show. The thing's called Verbal Intercourse. All of the Wu-Tang fandom, you know what verbal intercourse come from, you get me? But we right now we're using it in the sense that we want to get a better understanding of how we communicate, especially in regards to Speaker's Corner, the conversations, what you see down there, so that we can gain more from the conversations and have more fruitful conversations. You get me? And the audience can be more informed of what's actually taking place. So with that in mind, we want to discuss, in particular, logical fallacies that different people like to use. And we want to discuss intellectual honesty and effective communication just in general, you get me? So yeah. Man got Rap Raven, well gone, fam. Hey, like the people for them, innit?
How's it going, guys? I'm here. Let's do this.
We got James in the building as well. Man, like James, he's the brother who comes in Speaker's Corner at night time. He goes to the Speaker's Corner at night time when he's one, so I'm in debates Muslims. Well, go on, James.
Hey, yeah, this is the tall James, not the kind of slightly older, slightly shorter James.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bom, what you say? Do you want to start off the thing with talking about some logical fallacies?
Me in particular? Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
so kind of I think so there's like a whole host of logical fallacies. I think kind of the most common one in Speaker's Corner would be kind of when someone maybe misrepresents what you've said and tries to kind of lead the conversation. So I know if you make a statement.
You're talking about straw man.
Yeah, straw manning basically. Yeah. So that's a really common one at Speaker's Corner. And
yeah, let's go slow still, Car. Here's how I found out about logical fallacies and all of these things. I didn't even know that there was such a science that existed. You get me? I just used to call it moving sideways. Like when I used to see when I'm talking to people and I feel like, right, I'm just being dishonest. I used to think like, right, you're just moving sideways. And then I started researching, like there's actual people who study these sideways maneuvers and give them titles, you get me, and subtitles. I was like, rah, this thing goes deep, you know, fam. I thought, you know, like that, fam. I thought I was the only one who's understanding like certain patterns of behavior that man do, but there's actually a science to it still, sir. Yeah, break down the straw man fallacy one.
Yeah, so the basic idea is like, I don't know, someone said something that you find inconvenient, and so in order to kind of respond and beat their arguments, you kind of make it weaker by pretending that they've said something that they haven't. And so, like, I know there's a good, like, one recent example, one really good example is there was this psychologist called Jordan Peterson who wrote a book, and he was being interviewed by this Channel 4 news broadcaster on Channel 4, and he said something like, women on average, kind of, the women kind of make less than men, but that can happen for kind of many reasons. And then the woman who was interviewing him said, so you're saying that women are, less good at participating in the workforce than men? And she did like this constantly. She said, like, so you're saying that, then just totally misrepresented what he's saying. So often it won't be as blatant as that, but that's basically kind of what straw manning is. And it can happen a fair bit at Speaker's Corner in kind of a more subtle way.
Yeah. You saying, Raven? Anything you want to add to that? You ever notice anyone doing that at the corner when you're talking with people? Yo, Raven, where you at, fam?
He's muted his mic.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Wait.
Yeah.
I was talking away. My mic muted. There you go. Yeah. Now it happens a lot, but I think my interest usually comes from the motivation behind that. So I think when you actually end the Speaker's Corner, if you're actually trying to learn, then that's very different from someone who actually comes with a preconceived idea that they want someone to take away, and usually that's what causes these kind of straw man kind of behavioral tactics.
Yeah, I think if you have a reason, if you want to be kind of intellectually honest, then that will kind of solve most of the kind of intellectual fallacies, because like a simple mistake, like some people can make simple mistakes and that's quite easy to clear up. But if you want to be evasive and kind of muddy the waters and kind of like make things murky, then you can point out kind of the fallacies that people are using, but it's still probably going to be a slow, laborious conversation. Like, how sometimes you have conversations in Speaker's Corner where it takes you like an hour or half an hour just to get one simple point across, and like you make hardly any progress in terms of sort of exchanging ideas. Whereas other times, if like both people are kind of open and like sort of feel like they want to learn, and they don't feel like kind of their ego is on the line or that sort of thing, then they can exchange their ideas, and they're both kind of a bit generous. Like they won't sort of nitpick. They'll sort of try and they'll try and see what the other person is trying to get at. And so it's I think like sort of Raven said, it's like if you understand what kind of state of mind people are in, then you'll kind of probably be able to predict whether you're going to have a fruitful conversation or not.
Yeah, but then I think one of the challenges you face at Speaker's Corner is a lot of people come like part of bigger collectives, so they have like group think mentality, some of them. So you might be able to present some new information, but if they're part of a group that doesn't share that kind of idea, then they're going to have an automatic defense mechanism. And
yeah, definitely.
And that's when you might see a lot of strawmen coming in.
I'm having a madness right here still. Like, it's coming like the thing's gone back offline,
No, it says live in the top left corner, so I don't. I'll let you know. Hold on.
Philosophy. I use that Sway Brown. Hey, Coleman, he knows the thing. I'm seeing comments by right. It says no one in online though. I don't know where I'm going.
It says it's stream live. Stream live 7 minutes ago.
Yeah, it only lasted 2 minutes, I think, this particular stream.
But it says
we're back on.
Okay.
We're back on now. We're back on still. I changed something still. Yeah, we're live. Shakira, Shakira, you had to come through, you know, fam. You had to jump in the thing, you know. Scatter minds. You meant to jump in the thing still.
Give them the link.
Yeah, how do I do that, man? Can you man give it to them?
Let me see if I can see what I can do. Hold on.
And I like Sway Brown, you know. Man said philosophies, cheese, microscope. Come on, fam. You know about verbal intercourse, blood. You understand, fam? Wu-Tang is for the children, blood. Yeah.
Find this team.
I think the next most common kind of fallacy would be kind of moving the goalposts. So that's like basically if the argument's about one specific claim or specific topic, or discussion is about one specific claim or specific topic, then kind of if someone feels like, oh, I'm kind of losing ground here, or I don't want it to seem as though I am having to kind of admit that this other person's right, then they might like sort of sneakily kind of say, oh, but what about this? And then kind of make it so that the claim's different. Like if someone said like, you know, there aren't more than 150 mountains taller than 2 kilometers high, and then I show them kind of like, oh, like here's a list of mountains that are, you know, of that standard, then they might say, yeah, but you know, those mountains aren't measured from, you know, atmospheric minus 10 barometers, or some other kind of nonsense, just to kind of like not give up. And so that's like an obvious example, but I think that's a sort of maybe next most common thing that kind of can often happen at Speaker's Corner. But yeah, like Raven said, it's, you know, it's about like, you know, why they feel like they should do that.
Do you feel that sometimes if the information you're presenting could be you know, deemed as insulting or undermining, that might also make people behave in such a way?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm probably like a bad person to talk about this, because when I first came on, I definitely came with the sort of aim of debunking or disproving things, and I was like trying to disprove things that people kind of hold very dear to them, and so you need to be kind of extra kind of careful when you're talking about that. Like if you're talking about, I know, something that people don't hold that dear to them, like, you know, kitchen products or something, people are happy to be kind of proven wrong on the kitchen products. But yeah, so I'm definitely not like a kind of paragon of effective conversations. I definitely like sort of rolled in the mud with people and kind of gotten into really messy conversations and that sort of thing. But you know, live and learn, and you try your best and stuff.
So you're saying when you first came, you were actually trying to be confrontational?
Not necessarily confrontation. Well, it depends. Like I definitely like if I sense that the conversation was getting confrontational, or like kind of people being evasive, then I'd sort of could maybe get frustrated. I wouldn't come intentionally confrontational, but I definitely like didn't have good practice or best conduct for trying to have the most sort of I didn't do the kind of things that would help other people not be evasive. Like I did things that would be likely to result in people thinking, you know, I want to sort of defend, I don't want to like lose face, so I don't want to kind of admit to something that I'm part of a collective. So I did things that would make people likely to be.
You compromise your intellectual honesty.
I did things that made it more likely for that to happen. Yeah, I think so.
Mad thing, and that's the next thing what Rob talk about as well. You know, he's like it's overlooked a lot of the time that people who's involved in a conversation are there to have an honest conversation. So he makes an effort, like a conscious effort, to ask man who he's talking to, do you care about the truth? And that's like, I don't know, Rob, if you're listening, car, I told him I was gonna do this show still. You need to jump on it still, car. I know you'll have a lot of valuable input for this one as well. You get me? But I feel that's a key question to ask someone who you're conversating with still. Like automatically we just assume that, yeah, who we're talking to, they want to have an honest conversation. You get me? And if you don't like make that consciously, if you don't consciously highlight that that's what you're trying to do, man can just move all types of sideways. You'll be wasting your time not figuring them out. You get me?
Yeah.
Who you saying? let's go on to some more logical fallacies, isn't it? I know you must know a bag of them.
Well, like another pretty common one, it would be kind of, and one that I've sort of seen in speakers' corners a bit is like kind of called ad hominem, which is when you like if someone's like made a point or made an argument, made a logical argument, and or maybe presented some evidence, then rather than directly refuting the logic of the argument or the quality of the evidence,
that'd be like you can't tell me that you're a thief. That'd be like your breath stinks.
Yeah. So that would be like a really that'd be a really kind of like on the nose kind of or blatant example where people would say, "No, like, that's stupid." But like another one would be kind of I know if you like, let's say kind of you make a claim about some historical event, then someone asks you, "Oh, really? How many books have you read on this historical event?" And like, you know, obviously kind of you might not have actually read a book, but if you've read like, let's say, an article on the internet which is written by someone else, then kind of rather than, or although they might say kind of like, you know, do you have a degree in this or something like that, but you know, no, even if the person making a point is a total beginner or a total novice, like if what they're saying is true, then like the truth value of what someone is saying is totally unaffected by their title or status or anything else. So yeah, that's something that people do to try and discredit someone. And it's different from like just insulting someone, because let's say someone has like made a point and then you try to kind of say, you try to explain, if you explain why that point is false and then you insult someone on top, then like you've already kind of dealt with the point in kind of an intellectually honest way. And so you're insulting them on top isn't really logic, isn't really an ad hominem, because you know you've already dealt with their point properly, but you're just kind of insulting them for kind of panache or like style or that sort of thing. But this is kind of a good example of how, you know, you can sort of, as it were, follow the logical rules, but still kind of argue in a way that isn't likely to have an effective conversation. Because if you do insult someone, then you know you're more likely to kind of, you know, lower the tone of the conversation, and you won't have a good verbal intercourse. So you know there's more to having good verbal intercourse than sort of just like avoiding logical fallacies. It's, you know, but probably the kind of mindset that Raven pointed out is the more important thing.
I know it's that as well, story. It don't make sense if you're trying to have a conversation with someone and you want to understand where they're coming from and you want them to understand. It don't make sense insulting, man, and all them things there. So I was gonna say, like, I ain't gonna find enough people when they're in speakers corner. They're different to when they come in the comment section. I don't know. You might be guilty of this yourself. You get me? In terms of the manner in which you address people. What are you saying? You want to speak on that?
What do you mean? As in, what's the dynamic shift you're seeing?
I've seen man having like decent, respectable conversations in speakers corner, and then I've gone in a comment section, and I've seen the same man talking greasy. You get me? I'm like, rah. A man don't talk like that when man's in the corner. You get me? Obviously, ain't trying to bait no one up. I want to give everybody the opportunity to talk for themselves to see if they do that. Yeah, if they're gonna put their hand up to that. Hold on. Before we even get into that, still, let me hail up the rest of the panel, man, who jumped on the thing still. Man like Shakara in the building. Hail up my brother.
Get me.
Yeah, man like Scattered Minds as well. Hail up, fam.
Big up, fam. Big all the time.
Yeah. Callum was here still. Titans was here. Come like he jumped out of the thing. And Titans jump back on, man.
Yeah, man. He's fidgety, man. He can't stay still, man.
But yeah, I don't know if any of the man they want to speak on that still.
Yeah, I definitely applies to me. So one reason why kind of if I'm in a live stream and like there's some topic going on and like I'll be probably a bit more sort of direct and curt in how I respond to people, and you know perhaps more insulting as well than in the speaker's corner itself, is because for one thing in the comments section, like you can't like speak over someone in comments. Like you're always going to read the comments, so you can there's 100% success rate in terms of getting your message out. So you don't, whereas like if you're having a conversation with people in Speaker's Corner, if you like, get to, if you kind of start getting kind of a bit insulting or a bit sort of, you use kind of like, slightly rude language, then that's just going to like make the energy more amped up, and like eventually people just get too loud, and like you won't be able to kind of communicate and get your message across. Whereas like if it's a comment section live stream, and like, I've just read a comment like that's insulting me and saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, you're wrong, then I'll feel like I can respond in turn. And normally these people will just be kind of YouTube commenters who never come to the park, so I don't worry about kind of I don't worry about them so much if I like say, if I kind of like prove them wrong and then say, yeah, now shut up you idiots or whatever, or shut up you potato. So that's why I do it.
So were you saying that naturally you would want to actually be able to insult people in the park if they didn't overreact, in your opinion?
Not if it's unprovoked, but like yeah, like kind of there's that temptation.
Right. Right. Is that like in the attempts to find out something new, or just because their belief is or their understanding of something is so opposite to yours that you're almost insulted by it?
No, it would no. I'd only really feel like kind of insulting someone if like they did it to me first. So it'd just be kind of like a tit for tat, or
Right.
A retaliation. It wouldn't be because I find their belief system kind of so awful. Actually, I tell a lie. Kind of, I can think of some sort of beliefs that I kind of consider to be kind of so awful that I might speak insultingly about it. So yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah. So sometimes that can be the case.
Right. Okay. So have you ever thought of like what is there any particular topic that you bring up that brings most frustration to you? Like you feel that no matter how you demonstrate or how much you give examples of this topic, it's it doesn't seem that they might practice the stuff you were talking before, as in intellectual dishonesty or red herrings or whatever it might be. Is there any particular topics that you find difficult to get across?
Yeah. So like things like, for example, I talk about Islam a bit, and there might be some things like error. So the topic that so wait a second, can I just clarify on what you're asking? Are you asking about an example of something that some kind of belief of a person I'm talking to that would cause me to kind of feel a bit irritated to begin with? Or are you talking about that? Okay, yeah. So an example of that would be some of the kind of like orthodox interpretations of like kind of hardline fundamentalist interpretations of Islam would be such that they believe that in the future it would be the ideal kind of way things should be is that kind of non-Muslims should be second-class citizens. Like if I know someone like that I'm talking to genuinely believes that, then and they're just like talking about it in a blasé way, and they also kind of like try and talk about other things in a hypocritical way, given that they also believe that, then that's something that would like sort of predispose me towards being a bit irritated or something like that.
Right. So when that situation has happened, have you ever thought of why they processed information that way? Why they come to that conclusion? In examples you're talking about. So what you're talking about is there might be a particular group who believe that in the future their way is going to be, and people who don't subscribe to their way will then be second-class citizens, like you're saying. Have you thought of why they think that, and why they believe this is like, what is it that's making them believe this?
Yeah. So I've spoken to a fairly good degree. Like I've spoken to some people who, for example, used to be of the same sort of opinions and beliefs, and I've like spoken like, how did you feel like at this time? Kind of, what made you stop thinking that sort of thing? So maybe not in the exact same way that you're talking about, though.
Right. No, it's interesting because I think sometimes, when you get frustrated when we're talking to people, what I try to do is I try to think of what has happened to make them think this way. And sometimes that sounds like a simple question, but it could be quite complex.
Yeah, it's definitely an important question that you should ask her whenever it kind of comes up.
Yeah, and I always think
We
like,
say,
go on.
go on.
I was gonna say, and I might not think a certain way, but I always think like, what circumstances could I go through to actually make me feel the same way, And then I start trying to analyze how that person actually was raised, like their fundamental values, their access to certain kind of ideas, and philosophies, education, and I try to do that sometimes, or quite a lot of times.
Yeah, I think that's a very good. It's a good process to go through, kind of thinking about that, because you don't like. I think the thing you're getting towards is that like, there isn't that much point getting sort of personally kind of angry at them if you would be in the same situation if you had kind of gone through what they had gone through. Yeah.
That's what allows me to have conversations and try to have it literally on a level with someone, to try to have the understanding, and hopefully they will see the same for me. Like I don't have their understanding because I haven't gone through that experience.
Yeah.
James, it reminds me of that video clip where you did send me still about when you're challenging or when you're questioning people's like fundamental beliefs, how defensive man can get. You get me?
Yeah, like that. That's a really good video. Like maybe it would be kind of, maybe you could like play it if you think it would be an appropriate thing to play. But yeah, that definitely plays into it.
Man could speak on it a bit still. I want to hear what the rest of the man them got to say though still. What you saying, Shakura? You saying scattered? Yo, the man then gone. What happened to them?
Nah, their microphone's muted.
Man, sorry. I'm zoned out for a second.
Intercourse, man trying to deal with intellectual fallacies, all them things there, you get me? Effective communication. So like the aim, like the purpose of me putting on this one is so that when people even go Speaker's Corner or when they're watching, that it can produce more fruitful discussions, or people can get more from the discussions, even if the level of discussion is still the same as it is now. People can look at it more, like have more tools to analyze what they're actually witnessing. You get me?
Yeah.
So, what's your take on the discussions down at the pot?
I think you get some good ones and a lot of bad ones. I think one of the issues is definition of the topic of what people are actually talking about. It's a big issue, and I also think emotions are massive issues. So I think Raven's pointed this out before. And sometimes there's some points, and people know you're going to make a point, and they don't want you to make that point, so they're going to do everything they can to stop you from talking. And there's a lot of these kinds of distraction tactics, and so I think that's unhelpful. I think if you want to go to Speaker's Corner to have a debate, I think you need to be intellectually honest and be prepared to accept when perhaps you need to go back and do some reading, do some research. You don't always have to concede that your argument's wrong. You could say, okay, fair enough, I'm not read enough about this point. You got me on that one, and move it on. Do you know what I mean? But a lot of the time, people don't want to do that. They want to, like, everyone wants, like, the ego thing and the camera thing, I think makes a big issue with some of these debates at the pot. But yeah, I think to improve them, I think one thing is less people involved in some of the debates, and I think restraint from some of the hecklers in the background, but I also think discipline from the debaters. If people are heckling you, you need to be able to really ignore it, because that's actually going to be that's just part and parcel of Speaker's Corner, to be fair.
I think when people, am I shouting? Because someone's been saying I'm shouting. I don't want to deaf people, sorry.
No, people been saying your mic's low, fam, more than anything.
Yeah, that's low, very low.
Oh, so what was that lady being intellectually dishonest? Like what?
I think so.
All right, let me start.
Or maybe ironic.
How about now? Is it good now? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It don't sound much different to me, you know. It don't sound low to me personally still, but I saw in the comments I didn't notice a few chats saying your mic's low, you get me?
Well,
But
someone
yeah,
It sounds low to
good
me
still.
still.
ancient technology, bro. Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying was, sometimes people they look for a reason to get out of a conversation. So what I've noticed is, as soon as you might do an ad hominem or some kind of insult, that will be the excuse for them to take it somewhere else.
Yeah.
I see it quite a bit for certain. I wouldn't say necessarily they're debaters. A lot of people come down for reasons outside debate. When you try to engage in an intellectual conversation with them, it's like it's a new world to them, and they're not necessarily.
Your mic sound worse. Hey, Raven, your mic sound worse, you know, fam. I don't know what you done still. But you got it on loudspeaker or something.
Hold on,
Sound muffled, fam. You got your mouth on the mic. Pause.
how about now? Is it terrible?
Yeah.
Sound better than it just was.
All right, so here is good, yeah? Here is good.
Everyone just turn their speakers on.
Well, I don't say, but some people saying too loud, some people saying some kind of curse. I don't know.
Are you on your phone?
No,
I'm on my phone. Yeah, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, it's a free thing. That's what it is.
are we good?
No, I'm talking through the thing.
Pause.
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm going still.
level as well.
It never started. It was started off all right though, man. So I don't know why I'm going still. I don't know why I'm going still.
Well, this is really
But
close.
yeah.
This is really close, right?
Go do your thing, man. Continue on in it. Continue on still. I got distracted.
Just go through it, man. Everyone turn your speakers up, man. We can live with this.
You get me? Yeah. What I'm saying, if you can still hear me, some people they're not necessarily come to Speaker's Corner to actually have an intellectual debate, right? They actually like. That's another thing we could talk about. People who actually like the I don't know how you describe it, the chaos or the
WWE.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think some people really do take that WWE thing seriously. And I think the more people act up like that in the park, the more viewers you're going to get who want that and actually encourage that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, it's definitely important that we have more of these discussions. So big up to content, bring this forth and actually trying to stimulate more intellectual discussions. Because I think there's a lot of people out there who want to talk about wider, deeper discussions, not always necessarily about religion. Some people want to talk about politics. So this week, I'm going to try and break down Brexit when I come true. So, you know, try to...
Well, you see, even on that note there, what you're saying about the hype and all them things there gets the views.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the times or if it's like always been that way. But right now, the hype's getting more views than some of the intellectual conversation. But people could argue that a lot of the heavyweight intellectuals that used to go Speaker's Corner don't really go there again. That's and right. If you look back, like if you look at the videos with like overall like throughout all time with the most views, even when there was beef back in the day, fam, the most views ain't the ones with the beef, fam. It's where man's having a good reason, and you get me.
I know you're shooting right.
You get me, sir?
Am I clear now? Am I much clearer now?
Yeah.
Like, you know, it was. I put headphones in. There's microphone on the headphones.
Yeah, I told you, fam. You was on that hands-free thing, fam.
Yeah. I'm the caveman, innit? I'm a caveman.
Okay. What do you mean? You just plugged in a hands-free set?
No. You know, like you can have microphones on the actual headphones themselves.
Yeah, that's what you got right now.
Yeah. Cause I didn't even know. So, see what I'm saying? Technology's even behind
me. Yeah, fam. But for real, yeah. The intellectual conversations, fam. That's what man's trying to stimulate. Obviously, in a park, like I'm there in a park on this social experiment thing. You get me? Like science. I'm doing a science experiment, fam. So ain't even really supposed to be trying to influence what happens at the park too much.
Yeah.
Kind of conflicting with it. You get me? But you know, like if it's got to a point where I see things going like downhill to the point of no return. You get me, sir? And that's the kind of Right, like there won't be no experiment to run no more. You get me? I just leave things the way it is. You know, like that, fam.
No, 100%. No, you're right. You're 100% right. Because even with me, like the videos I like the best, and like even when I looked back at the other videos, like you're saying, like a lot of people really do like the intellectual ones and the ones where you're actually having good discussions and like enlightening people on things they never thought about before or things they might have already always wanted to say themselves, isn't it? So yeah, like I think those conversations will get the views, but like what I meant to say basically, what I meant by that was the more of that kind of stuff happens, is the more you're gonna get a particular type of viewers who only want to see that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas before, and you're gonna start putting off some of the viewers who used to watch like a lot more of the intellectual things. They're gonna be like, oh, this is going downhill. So like you're saying, I appreciate the fact that you put your little foot in quickly to try and change the direction. But I think naturally, well, I don't know if naturally, but I think things are changing up. Like there's a lot of different people coming down to the park now, and different people want to have different conversations, like different topics. So, like, yeah, I think things will change. I'm sorry, Shakara. I see you want to say something.
No, I was just listening. I was just really affirming what you were saying. But in terms of affirming it, though, I think something. I think it was Raven that no, somebody said something a while ago in terms of the fact that people, whilst they're in the debate, yeah, are sometimes often likely to respond to the person that's going on away or trying to diss them personally, rather than the person that is, you know, trying to actually have a productive conversation. You know what I mean, or exchange of ideas, so to speak. Yeah, and I think that particular reality adds to the hype thing, and you know, it's like the same mentality of, you know, the big arguments. The hype gets more views, if that makes sense. Like in the midst of the conversation, yeah, the hype gets more attention. You see what I'm saying? So it's a thing where those who are in the conversation need to be mindful of that as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I find that as well. These things are difficult to manage, yeah. Whereby you've got a conversation with 10 man, yeah, and you know, like everyone's got their own energy like, in the thing, and so like there may be 2 or 3 people in there that, you know, are like, yeah, let's have like they're dealing with the thing, yeah, and then the rest, like everyone else has probably got their own agenda that is not quite, you know what I mean, like, yeah, able to facilitate a productive conversation like that. And I think them things they can be annoying, but like man has learned to kind of just deal with it, innit? But yeah, it doesn't always produce the best results, especially from a watch back perspective. Do you know what I'm saying?
And I agree, man. I feel like debates shouldn't. We need to like put a limit on the number of debates or number of people in debates to, in order to get a bit more productive conversations. I'd say 4 at most, preferably 3, and or 3 with a mediator, preferably, but 4 at most. Car, like when you when you start getting to those numbers where 5 and 6, and then people start getting frustrated because they don't have a chance to speak or no one's listening to them, and you get little breakaway conversations in the middle of it, like it gets very messy. It's not good for the viewers. But in general, even like when you're there at the corner, like certain times the mic picks up more than anything that we hear. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you're sitting there at the park and you don't hear nothing that the debater saying because everyone's in every direction. So
yeah.
Yeah,
but I think that's a discipline issue, and that could take us down like a different kind of course. But would you guys ever come across like intellectual intimidation? And what I mean by that is like some people might be actually intimidated to actually debate other people or speak other people because, like, I've seen before in certain groups where they feel like they're not knowledgeable in something they represent, so they're intimidated to talk about their understanding of it.
Yes and no, because since I come here, I've been hearing this thing that's changed, and the intellectuals don't come to the park. Yeah, and like I've never really grasped what that meant, what that actually means. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of like, what are you saying about the people that are there in the space at that time? For those who are saying that. And then, you know, what are you saying about their intellectual capacity or their level of knowledge on, you know what I'm saying, whatever. So, you know what I mean? I don't know how to gauge that. So I don't know if, like, if that kind of a statement is intended to intimidate, or or the people that are saying that are identifying the fact that the people that they're talking about really don't have a certain level of knowledge on the subject and therefore feel intimidated and therefore are going away in the park because they're intimidated.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the past speakers, I think the presentation of information also plays a part. So when you look at a lot of the past stuff, you have people who come to the park for a speech. They'll stand on like a box and they'll just deliver the information. That still goes on now, but the people who do that, I see like regulars who are like preaching the same kind of stuff from what I'm seeing. So now the conversation really is about like people like starting conversations and then the organicness of that. So that's a very different dynamic from someone coming down. Do you know what I mean? I think maybe we should try to set up these kind of speeches as well, where you come down on a box and give a speech, and then afterwards you take a Q&A or whatever.
Yeah, I get that, and I think that strategy that format does work well. You know what I'm saying? People are still doing it. You know, Liam Mohammed still does that.
Yeah.
And very you know, stringent thing. You know what I mean? Like, no interruptions. You know what I mean? But
I want to say, I see James standing on a platform one time still.
Yeah, I did that only once. I should do it again maybe at some point.
Did you feel?
I ain't gonna front. Before you done that, I didn't really know who you was. You know.
Oh yeah, that
I
was
used to see you there with it.
Yeah, he's only filmed me maybe once before. But yeah,
I filmed you talking to Gary once before. I remember.
Yeah, Gary. Yeah, that was. Yeah, he's a good character. Like, yeah.
Like, shout out to Gary as well for real. True stories. You're gone.
Yeah, I don't obviously I don't know the history of the thing like that, yeah. But at the same time, I think the conversational format works in its own way. It does a different thing. Yeah, I don't think it's an either or thing. But
yeah. And definitely has to have the conversation, car. Like Uncle Ty would say, still, Speaker's Corner is the arena. You see, when ideas get challenged, from like, so to me, it gives the opportunity for both sides. If they're sincere, they can learn and develop and grow. You get me? If man just in his one echo chamber, just shouting, like just expressing and ain't receiving nothing, ain't being challenged on what man's talking about, then it's kind of dead. You get me? Like you said, make a presentation and then have a Q&A at least. You get me? If you're gonna do a presentation, definitely have to have a Q&A still at least. You get me?
Yeah, you know. So yeah, but I do think there's room for more kind of actual, because one of the good things about people that are delivering speeches is that you get to hear more of what they're trying to say.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So that you actually get a whole perspective. You know what I mean? You know, or at least a more fuller perspective from what it is they're presenting. And maybe that's how sometimes things have to run in it, in the sense of like, because every conversation, like, you don't have to always try to exhaust a conversation in 1 week, in it. Maybe this week one person presents, the next week the other person presents, and then following week there's a conversation between the perspectives. Do you know what I'm saying? So people already have an idea of what both people are saying before they actually, you know, engage in the exchange of ideas.
Or if you are to have two people talking about a particular topic, like opposites, maybe you have someone step up, talk for 5 minutes, someone come and step up for 5 minutes, and then the question. You know what I mean? Instead of interrupting each other, because sometimes when you interrupt each other, you forget where you're trying to go. I mean, that happened so much.
Yeah, I think Raven's just touched on kind of what I think is maybe like, I know what I consider like the number one problem with kind of conversations at Speaker's Corner is that it can take a really long time for the conversation to progress because of things like, for example, interruptions, or for example, quite often people will like say, ask a question in a yes or no format, but it's not really a yes or no question. And so the other person might try and like answer in a way that they want to answer, but then the person who asked the question will be like, no, hold on, answer the question. And so that kind of back and forth can really mean that you can watch, like, there can be like an hour video, but only like sort of 3 kind of points of the argument get made. So I'm kind of interested in what you guys think is kind of like what would be the best practices to try and make sure that the conversation and the kind of exchange of different points, the like exchange of different arguments, and how that can go as fastly and kind of smoothly and kind of quickly as possible. Because I think that's kind of like something that I'd like to see improve. So yeah, I'd like to hear if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, what I would do was maybe try to have physical rule sets that you can introduce that can help people know when they're stepping off. So, for example, if you have like a talking device, like a ball or a bell or something, and then when someone holds that, it's there to this for the extreme case of when things keep on get interrupted. But if you have like, okay, when you hold this ball, this bat, or this thing, this is your time to speak. So that way you can say, yeah, but you're not holding the belt at the moment, mate. Because I think sometimes when the passions get involved, people completely forget, themselves and where they are. So if you could have some kind of device in play that people could point at and go, here's the rules. When you have this baton in your hand, you can speak. Without the baton, you can't speak. I know this sounds like going back to nursery, but I think in some situations it might actually be quite beneficial, especially in like, big groupy kind of discussions or whatever. Like having some kind of rule set for a certain particular topic might help. Maybe, I don't know.
I think that's a good idea. It's definitely worth trying. Bring a kind of spare baton in your kind of coat, and then when things start getting a bit too hectic, kind of like, okay, back to basics, back to kind of nursery rules.
I also think timed, like you say, timed debates as well. So 3 minutes speaking each or 5 minutes speaking each.
Yeah, good idea.
Make sure just give the person the time to just make their points, and then the next person speaks. So
now another idea I'm thinking that obviously I'm going quite extreme, but if you have a rule set of two people debating, maybe you could start bringing like yellow and red card principles, where if people use ad hominem attacks or something, yellow card, another one, end the debate. They forfeited the debate. So it's just like in football, you don't want to get sent off. Who knows? Maybe punishing people for like breaking the rules of a debate. Maybe, I don't know. This is like a spectacle, by the way. I'm mentioning like a spectacle, but it might add to the whole dynamics of the park in special kind of circumstances.
I hear you. I kind of feel like that can only be applied though, if people have agreed to be in a kind of structured kind of debate.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So we'd have to set the context for that first. It couldn't just be But I do take the principle.
It'll be a spectacle, but it's a spectacle with a purpose, like.
Yeah.
Yo, I'm looking to start setting up some type of debates, fam. Car. What man's realizing, like, obviously, I film a lot of the youths who talk politics. You get me?
Yeah.
And they got their regular echolers. Like if a right wing leaning brother speaking, they'll get the left wing echolers come along, and vice versa. You get me? But they don't never arrange. They don't never arrange to have a discussion on a particular topic. You get me? Like that to me, that'll be banging, fam. That'll save nothing. You get me? Like come with your evidence, and especially on this intellectual honesty thing. If you're intellectually honest, then I think the best thing to do would be, before man even go to the debate, give each other, like send your arguments over. You get me? So man know what points you're going to be trying to make. You get me?
Oh, snap.
Yeah, you just made the point. I was going. Sorry.
If man really care about the truth, fam, you ain't got to worry about a man shaming me or a man making my thing look crazy or it. Because if your objective is to know what the truth is, so you can go along with it, like go where the truth takes, man, then you're supposed to be like helping man to understand your point. You get me?
Yeah.
But I think you kind of said what I was gonna say, yeah. But as well, I think that in terms of the idea of people responding to the hype more, one thing that having more organization can do is kind of offset that people know they're tuning in for this thing. You see what I'm saying? So like if we're saying so and so is gonna do this on that particular day and the video is gonna be uploaded then, then you know what I mean. There's more of an anticipation generated around a certain kind of conversation, not even just a topic, but the people know that they're gonna tune in and actually hear a serious dissection of ideas and exchange of ideas. You see what I'm saying? So
I hear that.
so yeah.
And
It's large,
also,
man.
but
It's large.
also, yeah, I think also like because like with what content does is quite organic in a sense if he goes around and records people speaking, but for the conversations that don't conclude, maybe we could have like a request where it's like people review that organic conversation and they highlight like, you know what, these guys were doing ad hominems and one guy wasn't letting that person speak, so you can actually like schedule a take two with that feedback. So both people can come back knowing that the viewers have all said, you know, the topic was good, but you guys were using too many red herrings or whatever it was. So I don't know, have you guys ever read comments and used that to actually brush up your skills? You think, okay, maybe I was doing that. I should go back next time and correct that kind of behavioral pattern.
Yeah,
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So what you say, guys?
No, he's asking to repeat the question.
Oh, what I'm saying is, for example, if you had an organic conversation that was picked up from say content, right, and the conversation never actually concluded, but when it was uploaded, there was a whole lot of feedback from the viewers, like, okay, James is doing this, Shaka is doing that, they're not actually covering this issue. So then, what could be happening is a retake or a part two could be organized, and that way you've actually reviewed what everyone said, and you're going there to conclude that topic, but with the knowledge of how people are viewing you. So that might actually contribute to you actually trying to conclude on that topic.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
was saying,
idea.
yeah, I had to do that just this week.
Okay.
But and this is the thing, it's a double edge really, yeah. Because whereas critique, like some of the critique was nonsense, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, so for example, I just used a live example, and one guy said to me, yeah, like you got too salty in this conversation, innit? And I'm saying, and the reality is, yeah, like I already felt like man got too hot at a certain point in the conversation, innit? So I'm saying, at the same time, a lot of the other comments that were agreeing with him were saying things like, yeah, man got gagged up on them kind of things, which is foolishness. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, my point is that I think the part of the problem will be educating the audience to the standard that we're trying to accomplish, so that they're responding not only to the conversation but the actual standard. You know what I'm saying? So that, you know, we educate the audience to the modus operandi, so to speak. You know what I mean? It might yield even more critical comments and points that we have to take more notice of in general from here on out.
So I think, yeah, I think if good topics are covered, then we could try to get a request as in like, let's do that again, and then obviously you can have a start, middle, end, and then obviously the feedback will work. I think that might be something that'd be quite interesting to be honest. Especially the fact we're talking about so many conversations don't actually conclude.
Yeah. So we're kind of we're sort of switching a little bit between kind of a conversation and a debate, and I realize that there's not kind of necessarily a hard kind of border or like dichotomy between them, but I think we have to sort of recognize that if you're having a kind of a debate or an argument where kind of you both definitely have a disagreement about something and you want to kind of show that your understanding is correct or that sort of thing, that's definitely going to, from the beginning, be a hindrance to the kind of effective verbal intercourse or the effective conversation. So kind of, I wonder, like, what kind of things can we do to kind of make sure that, you know, even in cases where it's kind of like to begin with, there's a disagreement or an argument, kind of, and it's in that kind of format, kind of try and make sure that it's still an effective conversation. Or like, yeah, what are your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, me personally, I try to have certain kind of rule sets where it's like, all right, I definitely don't want, if we are stark opposites in these ideas, I know that if I come and I start using ad hominems or I use you know, anything like that, that's just an easy excuse for the conversation to go somewhere. So even on that level, I try to cut down. I think in certain debates, it might be necessary to have a mediator, maybe. Like if you're going to debate about religion or politics or stuff, it might be necessary to have a mediator. Not that works all the time, if at all, but it might be a standby, and then for both parties to agree that the mediator is the referee of this. So when the mediator says stop, you're going to stop and listen to it. So at least that way, if both parties agree, then you have some kind of structure in place, potentially. That might be a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Something to throw in here, yeah. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm conscious of the fact that a lot of the stuff that's gone on in the last couple of weeks is actually personal. Like,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like, and some of it is principled as well in that it involves things like racism and them things there, yeah. But a lot of what's been going on is personal. You know what I'm saying? People have actual arguments, yeah, and genuine beef, like they follow that and them thing there, and it's just playing out on the camera. So I'm kind of just throwing that. I was going somewhere like with it, but it's kind of slipped my head. But my point is that, like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to kind of to do that, so to speak. You know what I mean? When things are actually just personal, yeah, or whether you think that having more structured conversation and more ordered conversation will actually have an impact upon the personal beef, and that it might lessen it to some degree, or what?
But the challenge of the personal beef is it's not usually declared. So sometimes I've come in to mediate very heated debates, and I'm pondering why is it not getting anywhere? Because there's something that's happened outside of the actual topic. The topic is a rouge, it's actually this man had some incident another time, and they're using this as a rouge to attack each other or whatever. So yeah, we could be none the wiser than that. But to be honest, that kind of stuff is, if we see that, we shouldn't really engage in it anyway, because that's not going to go nowhere.
It's the kind of thing that I could imagine getting better over time if the park sort of, or if a bigger section of the park starts kind of following these kind of guidelines for effective conversations, then I could imagine like 6 months down the line, kind of personal beefs being maybe a little bit less frequent or a little bit less kind of strong than they are now. So I could imagine it can be sort of slowly helping over time if things like mediation or that sort of thing were sort of put in.
So yeah, I'll read in the comments, isn't it? It's funny.
As well as like the personal beef and stuff. Oh man, I forgot what I was gonna say, man. I'm tired, man.
Boy, late night there.
Hello.
And what's you man's general experience been engaging in conversations? What would you say is your best experiences, and then some of your frustrations, like regularly occurring frustrations where you come across?
My regular reoccurring challenges is because I've always been quite calm and neutral. If I actually perform or I speak loud, it's interpreted that I've lost the plot. And I've been trying to tell people that I'm a speaker, and no one's actually seen me speak because I spend most of the time mediating and trying to appease people who have high levels of passion. So when you have someone who has high levels of passion, if you didn't match that passion, it just goes to the top. So you have to have this kind of like middle ground demeanor. But yeah, a lot of people that they're confused by that. They're confused by like loud speaking for everyone to hear with going mad, which is interesting. Like for example, also like when the camera's pointed, like if I'm speaking and people come and the camera comes, my natural thing is to make a circle, step back, and speak so everyone can hear as well as the microphone. Well, the people I'm talking to, they're like, what? I don't get it. Like a minute ago, you're like mumbling, and now you're talking for everyone to hear. They don't get that I'm aware that people are watching, and I value them being able to hear what we're saying. So that could be something that I want to work on when I talk to people, to let them know that. I don't really get frustrated like that, to be honest, but that's something I think could need improving on. Just that clarification of why I might do certain things. A conversation that I have that I like having, probably all of them are not actually on camera. A lot of them is the ones-on-one. Is like the one-on-ones where, a lot of people come up to me and they say, what you're doing has changed my life this way, and I find it very helpful. And it's usually just a one-on-one, or you have a one-on-one challenge that you help someone get through, and that's never caught on camera.
Yeah, that last part is a good one.
Yeah.
The camera dynamics is an interesting one in the sense that obviously cameras draw crowds, yeah, but what draws crowds even more than that is productive conversation. Like, what we're talking about in terms of the views, yeah. Fam, it happens in the park. Like, you could start a conversation and it's, what I'm saying, it's a good engaging conversation if you're disagreeing, that kind of thing. And some beef will start behind you, and then like half the crowd moves off. Yeah, in that sense. And that probably actually facilitates a conversation. That's what I'm saying. But I've just noted how crowds move. Where hype is, if that makes sense. And sometimes when there is hype around your conversation, it actually affects the quality of the conversation. That can be a challenge. Other than that, observing certain dynamics, yeah. So like, I noticed that many weeks, yeah, there are some right-wing white guys, yeah, who they're not necessarily engaged in no conversation, but they're just watching the dynamics, yeah. And so they see something happen over somewhere. Like I saw like last week, not the week before, someone got into some argument about something. And they're like, yeah, see, this is what always happens, yeah. And they're filming all of this. So it's like these people they have their own agenda. They're not there to speak or to have conversation. They're there to, you know what I mean, to try and basically do these exposed videos. What I'm saying on their YouTube channel, their kind of thing. That's an interesting dynamic. So so the challenge there is like noticing these things and then trying to get other people to notice these things. You know what I'm saying? In terms of how people are behaving in the park.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump in front of anyone else's thing, but what you're saying there is that's another frustration where it's like you can see that people are going to participate in something that's going to be used against them. It's like words they say, they say certain kind of words that, mate, someone's going to take that, turn to a troll video, and just keep spamming it. And it comes down to people losing their temper very quickly, and then saying things that you shouldn't really say in a public space, really, and losing control, I guess.
Yeah.
The best kind of experience I've had at the Speaker's Corner would like Raven be kind of a run-on-one conversation where basically kind of the conversation was asked like how did you arrive at that conclusion, or how did you decide that particular opinion is true? And so kind of when you try and investigate, when you kind of ask someone, okay, so you think this thing, well, like how did you decide that was true? Like what method did you use to kind of find out, or that sort of thing? And you're kind of like, it often helps because it's a good way of talking, because if you kind of directly challenge something, especially if it's something that's kind of like quite a sort of deeply held belief or kind of a fundamental belief, or something that they kind of like have believed in since they were kids, kind of they'll have like defense mechanisms to try and not have that to be challenged. So even whereas if you ask like, okay, so how did you decide kind of this thing that you've believed in for so long, then they're less, it doesn't put them on guard as much. And kind of then if you kind of like, if they think maybe the way that I kind of decided that this is true isn't that reliable, then kind of you can sort of make progress in like sort of potentially changing minds or leading people to be a bit more open-minded than they were before. So my best experience was being something like that, where like kind of we're both like the person who came to me was like asked me that, so I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting. Like, what about you as well? And as for like kind of, I know, difficulties or kind of problems with the park, like I don't know, like I'm definitely like not the best person to talk to speak on having effective conversations. So I know there's lots of things I have to work on.
So James, see that good conversation that you was talking about?
Yeah.
What was the topic?
So it's like this guy and his wife kind of were basically sort of asking me how I came to my kind of religious belief, and I asked them like, oh, and I was asking them how they came to their religious belief, and I've seen them again kind of sort of since then. Huh?
You ain't religious though.
Yeah, I'm still not religious. Like we would like, so, but like it's still kind of definitely a more effective.
How did you come to you mean that they asked you how did you come to your views on religion?
Yeah.
And what about them? Was they religious?
Yeah, they were both Muslim. Yeah. But
Okay.
and the other thing that made it kind of quite good was that rather than getting into or trying to avoid getting into like sort of the like the details or the ins and outs, kind of trying to take a kind of more broad view of like what is a reliable way of like finding out or assigning confidence into what's true. And so hope to speak to them again sometime.
I think
it was a no camera thing yet.
There wasn't a camera.
Your content misses all the best conversations, man.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like man don't really want to talk like on the camera, man. Like it's not always the really sincerest people. I ain't gonna fight like even Shamsi as well. Still like a lot of the times back in the day when man used to try to film, man, he'll be like, nah, he don't really like filming on camera. Car. What he notices is that when he's talking to some people, they don't like the sincerity disappears. You get me? When they know that the camera's there, when they know that people are gonna be able to view back the video. You get me?
That's true.
The sincerity disappears still. So
yeah,
man's part of the problem in that regard. There still, I'm trying to get people used to the camera. You get me? And have some conversations. You get me?
One thing when I talk to people that maybe other people can try and to see if it might help them is if we're talking about ideas, I always ask, how would you feel if this idea that you uphold or believe in was not true? Like, it's a what if scenario. So I'm not saying it isn't. I'm like, how would you feel if they describe that, they will have nothing to live for, pain and agony? Then already that if you're trying to disprove something someone believes, then they've already defined that it's something that's going to cause them hardship and pain. So then I review that and go, okay, well, it's probably not worth me having a conversation. If if the outcome is they're going to feel heartache and pain, then I probably would walk away from that myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There are some people they don't mind believing something whether it's true or not. It's like because it brings them joy. And that's another thing to talk about, another topic. But if some information brings you joy, then I guess it's worth being ignorant over whether it's correct or not or true or not. And can you really convert those people? And if you do change their ideas, what value have you brought? At least in their paradigm, anyway.
Unless sometimes people might sort of think, oh yeah, my world would come crashing down, but that might just be kind of they might not actually feel that way when it happens. But it's still kind of worth bearing in mind.
Yeah, I think because I think I've seen you debate like the evolution topic a lot, and I think a lot of people like their concept is if they and apes had a common ancestor or whatever, then that would actually take away from how they see themselves.
Yeah, I guess some of them. I'm not sure if it's something that they feel kind of that emotionally attached to. I'm not sure. I haven't thought about the emotional kind of consequences of believing or not believing in evolution. I should ask some of them kind of how they would feel.
See that argument there as well, fam. I always hear that argument get misrepresented still. Like whenever I hear someone arguing about like the evolutionist people, them saying that we got a common ancestor. Even me, before I actually sat down and listened to some of the man them in the park actually say what the argument is they're making, I used to think that the argument was that not that we got a common ancestor, but that we evolved from monkeys.
Yeah,
that's the argument I used to.
One
like
thing,
the monkey that you see right now is that's what we came from. That's the argument I used to hear. So obviously, man used to lick fire against that. Like, you crazy?
right.
So why is the monkey still there and where that don't make no sense? You know, like that, fam.
Yeah.
But
I come to realize that that's
not
that
the
intellectual
argument.
dishonesty. Man, I'm misrepresenting the argument. Straw manning out the place. You get me?
Pretty much.
Can I ask a question about that? Quickly, yeah, because this might be instructive. Yeah, am I correct in saying that even that argument has evolved in the sense of that at one time it might have been justifiable to suggest that people were actually saying that human beings descend from monkeys?
No,
That's never been the case.
no. I think as far as I've always read, it's always been that humans have and apes, or what they describe as apes, have had a common ancestor. And whether that's right or wrong, my interest really is misrepresenting what people are saying, because then you have like a 2-hour debate about something that no one is saying. So
Yeah, definitely.
you know what I mean? You know, it's
long,
like, yeah. So that for me, that what I've always always start by asking questions, and then that way it makes things a bit more easier.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So what you saying, James? Has that argument ever been that we've evolved from monkeys? Has that ever been an argument, as far as you're aware?
Like as in have biologists ever said that? Is that the question?
They ever argued?
Yeah. I don't know the whole history of evolution, but definitely kind of modern biologists kind of, that's not what they're claiming, and that's not what the evidence suggests, because like people have pointed out, kind of, why would there still be monkeys here? Like back kind of, say, millions and millions of years ago, there would be this organism which doesn't really look like a human and doesn't really look like a monkey, and you couldn't really call it. It wouldn't be a monkey or a human. It would be our ancestor that looks kind of like different from both of them, and then sort of its descendants, some of them would end up being monkeys and some of them would end up being humans. That's the idea.
I was just catching a joke in the comments still. It's like, man, they ain't listening to what man's saying, you know, fam. I'm making up their own. I don't know if man's really hearing what man's talking about, or if oh no, fam, it's crazy still.
But that's like,
man really just don't want to know what the truth in here.
This is just what happens, fam. The same thing happens at the corner.
You might have to have two groups in it, like two different type of groups, like
fam.
You know, separate them in the park, so you can clearly go. You go there for the passer, you come here for the intellectual stuff. I don't know.
Someone kind of a while ago mentioned the kind of most popular old videos of Speaker's Corner, like the kind of arguments that were the kind of the popular kind of back from 1.5 or 2 years ago, or that sort of thing. And quite often, what I've noticed is that kind of the popular ones are ones which are quite a kind of a sort of intellectual debate, like kind of there's an argument and logic is followed, but there's also quite a bit of kind of a panache where people are a bit insulting at the same time, or like a bit kind of provocative at the same time. So like, for example, like lots of Sarah's arguments on Titans TV have like loads and loads of views, and he would like kind of always make sort of logical arguments and like not misrepresent people, or not do logical fallacies. So it'd always be good arguments, but they definitely wouldn't necessarily qualify as kind of effective conversation that's going to kind of change people's minds. So I think people sort of need to, well, like, because of like it would sort of provoke people's ego, or the camera's there, and if you're like sort of being a little bit kind of you know, in your face or a little bit uppity or a little bit I know, just kind of like not that sort of like calm energy that doesn't provoke people's egos and that sort of thing. Kind of it's just interesting to kind of wonder what do I want to do? Do I want to kind of make valid arguments and sort of win and kind of you know, be known as like someone who makes kind of valid arguments and kind of wins arguments, but you don't necessarily change people's minds? Or do you want to kind of have more effective conversations where, you know, the idea is to try and like teach someone something or change someone's mind? And you know, I think they're probably both valuable to some extent, and it's not necessary. You just need to kind of decide what you want to do, because I wonder if it's possible to do both at the same time, but it probably isn't. Yeah.
I think with me, when I first went to the park, and to an extent still today, if I'm not talking about like betterment stuff, is I'm more interested in how someone thinks rather than what they think, because you know, when you get a group of individuals and they're all part of a same collective or whatever, then I kind of know what they think, but it's how they came to that, you know, and that's the. I think I tried to do it one time with one guy, and he was very offended, very offended.
With one who? Sorry.
Well, I can say that. But just when I first there was a the guy the Muslim guy Paul. When I first went to the park and I spoke to him, he was giving dawah. And I said, you know, I was interested. I was listening. I think I told him, you know, I'm interested in how you came to these beliefs. I'm interested how your mind works, to be honest. And then he got really offended. I remember that. It was a couple of years back or whatever. He was really offended. He walked away. Now, I don't know if he was maybe because who knows. I can never guess, but he definitely was offended when I said that.
Just the question. No, it's not like, you know, just that question, and then he kind of started to be offended by that question.
Yeah, and he walked away. You know, he didn't want me to know how he thought. He just wanted to tell me this amazing experience he's gone through and why everyone should do it. And I was wanted to get how do you think? Why do you think that way? Now, I don't know if there was things in his past that he wanted to, you know, keep secret, or maybe a way he thinks that might compromise something. I don't know. But when I mentioned that, he just walked off.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And also one thing as well, that a lot of people think I'm trolling when I ask when I talk to some people, when I try to get like small information over like big topics, whatever. So I'm trying to think like, I can't even think of any examples, but sometimes when people are like giving you their, you know, what they want you to believe and stuff, they give you very big statements, and then I try to like break it down. And I wish I could think of an example, to be honest. I don't know if you guys can think of any examples, maybe, but when I do that, some people feel like, why do you care about that? Like, I've just told you this big information, and all you care about is these small details. But for me, the small details are important. Do you know what I mean? For me, the small details add up, and that's how I process information. But for most other people, it's like I'm like semi-trolling or something.
No, I think it definitely is important. It's like it's sort of the same thing as like defining your terms before you start a discussion. If like a claim is made, you want to know, you know, exactly what that is, or else you're both kind of having different conversations or arguing something that wasn't being argued. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, fam. So what? Man, want to read out some more of the logical fallacies, common ones that man recognize from the park.
Let me see. Emotional appealing. Is that a word? What's the correct word for that? The emotional appealing.
Appealing to emotion.
Yeah, I see a lot of that going on, where you could be in a debate with someone, and because you're surrounded by people, you can say a statement that you know is gonna get a cheer, and that's used to maybe perceive that your argument is stronger because you have more people cheering on your side and stuff, appealing to people's emotions.
yeah, like one experience I've had with that is one time I was arguing with Sabur. I argue with Sabur quite often. He's this Muslim kind of speaker who kind of mainly talks about evolution, trying to kind of cast doubts on it and stuff. And he was on a ladder, and kind of we're arguing about some of the evidence for evolution, and then he'd kind of like sort of say something like, well, you know, Darwin's beliefs were racist, and kind of he'd know that kind of like sort of that's the kind of thing that like would make everyone's kind of ears prick up, like kind of like, how can you believe in a theory that was like kind of, you know, created by a man with these beliefs, these kind of like racist beliefs of the 19th century. And like kind of each time I'd say like, no, but we're talking about what biologists today believe, and biologists today kind of don't believe in racism. They believe in just like facts and evidence, and you know, they don't like subscribe to every single word that Darwin has ever said. And you'd kind of hear that, but he'd still kind of like, at this point, he just wanted to kind of showboat, so he just like kind of keep on going back to like kind of, yeah, what about Darwin's racist beliefs? Like, how can you believe in these sorts of things? So yeah, there are definitely people who are like just trying to like kind of, you know, go to something that they know people will like kind of go away, even if it's not relevant at all.
On that point as well, still like triggering, like trigger words in it, like how people like the power of trigger words is like loaded words in it, like it's got a perception, like when you use the word, that there's like an attachment and an expected reaction, the thought of the word, you get me? It might not always be the case of like you might be using a word scientifically correctly, but the effect that it has, what's I'm trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I want to break it down. Can't find the words still.
It's like James was saying. I mean, we've all been there where someone just makes a statement and they say like, you know, you're racist. That's like, and they're already there. You know,
let's look like that. Like even that word there, racist. Let's break down what it actually means in it, because it might mean different things to different people. You know, I swear it does. I swear it does already still. But but we all know to be labeled as a racist, it's like it ends your career out here, innit? Like dancehall done. And from you're known as a racist, regardless of all of our different interpretations of the word racist, your dance is practically done. You get me?
Yeah, but then I'm
not supposed to associate with you no more. You know, like that.
No, but there's been some good speakers in the park who flipped it, and I think Leo Muhammad was one of them, where he was called a racist, and I think he said, what did he say? He said, if a man is very knowledgeable about playing the piano, he becomes a pianist. And if a man is very knowledgeable about race, he then becomes a racist. So I thought that was quite slick. That was quite slick.
But it's like, oh no, like some of these trigger words, like you said, it could be used as a method to just write off man's argument. Like even like that's what I'm saying. Like even if man is a racist, does it mean that what man's saying ain't true no more?
Yeah, and the other effect it has, the other big effect it has is that like kind of you feel such a need to kind of refute that and like say and like explain, no, I'm not a racist, that you get off topic, and then it's just like a way of murkying the waters, like muddying the waters and like bogging down the conversation, so that instead of like getting on with the actual arguments that you're, you know, probably kind of winning at that point, kind of like instead you have to kind of go on this detail, and then they might ask you something else, and while you're explaining yourself, and then suddenly you've been taken off topic. It just led you away from the, you know, relevant discussion.
Was that called machine gun? I said that's called machine gun. Or something. Yeah, go on.
Can I throw something in?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's it called? There's another side to this one, which is that because using the racism example, because it is a trigger word, people, the other side to that, which I've seen, is that people feel they can discredit your argument if you call them a racist, as though you're just being emotional. And sometimes there are good reasons to call somebody a racist. So it's cool. So like
we said in an intellectual, honest discussion, there's a good reason.
There's a good reason. There might be a good reason. Yeah, but because like you feel like you know, but it's a key tool, especially of the right and the alt-right, when they come down, racist now, it's emotional, that kind of thing, an example, yeah, how it would apply in the proper reason debate is through the idea of what they call scientific racism, yeah, where a lot of people that were that were considered scientists, yeah, in European history, used their notoriety to push pseudoscience in the name of promoting racist ideas, yeah, and these ideas were accepted. It's not like these ideas were accepted as the the science of the time, so to speak. You see what I'm saying? So if a person is saying that Darwin is racist in the context of our conversation and can substantiate how their racism makes their research flawed, yeah, or their findings flawed, then that would be appropriate. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But you have to be able to relate the racism to the argument that is being made and substantiate it.
Yeah, I think, like, for example, if you could show that, like, if you could show that someone kind of had racist beliefs, like they wrote a bunch of racist writings, and then the same person did a study where he kind of miraculously found out this he did this study and did all this research about kind of this group of people, then you'd say, like, kind of, this makes him disreputable, with, like, kind of undermines his credibility, the fact that he kind of you can show that he's racist and he's also kind of like claiming that he has this research. So yeah, I think that's totally valid and a sensible thing to infer.
I think when it comes to science, like and claims, it's like with science, it's maybe a blind testing in the sense of the results you get is the results you give. So if someone has a bias, then they might look over the actual results they see, and we do see a lot of this in a time where there was a lot of racism being practiced, like back in the days, whatever. You do see that scientific racism was a thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that's another thing of I don't want to change the topic, but I think that has played a big part in undermining the scientific process, where in like the golden age of certain kind of science discoveries, you had a high amount of people who were just naturally racist. Like, it was part of the culture at the time. Like, you don't like these kind of people, so anything that you get on them, you don't necessarily need to look twice or what it might be. I think that's playing a big part in undermining how people today think about certain type of scientists or certain type of theories and so forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Presumably that would play more into like biology rather than kind of chemistry or physics, I guess.
Yeah, biology is like one of the topics that I guess when you talk in the park is the one that's most tried to gets people's backs up and refuted and back and forth and stuff. I think, like, other forms of science, not really, but that one seems the one that seems to always starts the big kind of like debates, whatever.
Yeah, and I guess also people like psychology, like kind of findings in psychology and sort of sociology, because they're the kind of thing that affect people's kind of day-to-day lives, and people kind of have a certain experience, and then if you say, like, kind of, oh, these psychologists have kind of have this kind of finding, then if that conflicts with your experience, then kind of obviously it'll make more, it's something that you're going to be more interested in than this scientist found out this thing in physics, or found out this thing in chemistry or engineering, or that sort of thing. One kind of sort of logical fallacy that comes up a lot in political debates, I think, is kind of a no true Scotsman fallacy. So that would be, like, I think the most classic or frequent example is, like, someone's kind of trying to advocate for socialism or communism, and they might kind of get up on this will be like the kind of speakers who speak kind of on an actual stool or ladder or something, and then like they might get a heckler saying kind of yeah, but communism's never worked, and then like they'll say, yeah, well, that wasn't true communism. It was there hasn't ever been a communist state that has successfully kind of applied the ideas of Karl Marx or that sort of thing, and kind of it can be sort of justified in two ways, because on the surface you might be able to say, like, kind of, yes, okay, kind of, maybe you could say that there hasn't ever been like a true version of communism, but it also kind of it's just kind of like a bit sort of pie in the sky, or kind of wishful thinking in a way, and it kind of like, but that's only how it applies to like kind of sort of communist debates. Like more usually it would be in something like kind of if someone says like kind of oh well kind of what would it be like, kind of policemen are sort of really good at marksmanship, and then kind of someone would say, well, like, this platoon of policemen kind of they got really bad marks in their kind of marksmanship exam, and then the other person will say, oh well, they weren't real policemen. It's just like a way of kind of it's just like a kind of a little bit silly, really. It's just kind of raising your standards halfway through, or that sort of thing.
What about like sensitive topics, like, for example, like like topics on, say, racism, like, so I guess James might be a good person to ask in the group, right? How do you feel when those topics come up?
I quite often feel, I know, a little bit inhibited about talking about it. So like there was another James, like the James with who has often wears like kind of tinted sunglasses. Like he's directly kind of talked with Raspect about kind of racism and stuff. And so I'd kind of perhaps hesitate to talk about something that's kind of people have such strong opinions about, and kind of also kind of being my demographic. If so, it would depend. Like, for example, I mean, I might as well bring this up here now. I kind of feel like the definition of racism has kind of changed from at some point during my lifetime, or the kind of more popularly recognized definition of racism seems to have changed during my lifetime. Whereas, sort of like, to begin with, it used to just mean sort of racial discrimination or racial. I mean, actually, no, I shouldn't like kind of get into like the nitty gritty, but like if the question Raven just asked was like, how do I feel about kind of sensitive topics? I'd have to say, like, quite often I just avoid getting into them. But if I do decide to get into them, then what I'd probably do is sort of like maybe try and ask questions more, and like sort of explore what people think through kind of the Socratic method of like asking, kind of every time they kind of say something, kind of sort of asking something else, and maybe even like kind of phrasing a disagreement as kind of a question. So like kind of if someone says something and then you kind of think that that's wrong, you kind of think, well, how do you think about this? And then you kind of explain the kind of piece of contradictory evidence. So that's how I kind of deal with, if I genuinely find the topic to be kind of sort of sensitive, and like kind of if I think it would be kind of a hassle that if I'm not sensitive, like there are other topics I talk about that are sensitive to some people, but I don't kind of think it's kind of as much of a hassle to kind of talk about them in my normal way. So that those are the kind of two kind of approaches I have, I guess.
Okay.
Well, what's your kind of, how do you differ if you're talking about a sensitive topic versus whether you're talking about an insensitive topic, like a non-sensitive topic, and like how do you kind of decide, sort of, are there some sensitive topics that you kind of treat differently from other sensitive topics?
Yeah, I guess there is. I mean, for me, the whole, I think with the religion thing, yeah, I would definitely try to approach with respect. I know most other people wouldn't, to be honest. Um, I understand that someone has a belief in something. With the racial thing, I know, I think the angle I come from is I don't necessarily need to approach that topic with sensitivity because of the people group I represent. So I would just talk about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think just like with me, so I was observing the dynamic shift. So I think if the topic was sexism, then I think even though we probably don't practice this now, whatever, but you will have to be more cautious when you're talking to a woman because of the historical context of how sexism came about and who was most affected historically. While when you talk about racism, I think it would be the same. You have to think of what people group historically has benefited from this reality and which people group has benefited least. And then that's where you have to think of what am I going to say because, the legacy of this might still be around today.
Yeah. Do you think that there are some things that some people find kind of sensitive, like for example, things like opinions about abortion that kind of you might not feel, it might not occur to you, or you might not think about it as actively as some other topics, like, oh, this is a sensitive topic, like that. Do you think there's some things that kind of you sort of are in tune or in sync with, kind of, oh yeah, I sort of realize that this will be sensitive to some people, so I'll kind of adopt my approach, and other things that kind of looking back, there probably would be some people who found this sensitive, but you kind of don't really think about it, or you don't really kind of consider maybe their sensitivity as sort of valid or as kind of important.
Yeah, so to answer that, I'll go back to like it's like comedians, isn't it? Like comedians, they tell jokes and then they get on the news because of a joke they told, and essentially what comedians do is they might pick on small groups who don't really have a voice, and then as the years go by, those groups get a voice, and then those comedians get penalized for something they said 10 years ago. So I think when you become a public speaker, uh, everything you say is going to offend someone. You know what I mean? Everything you say is going to offend someone. So it does become challenging, but there is some fundamental taboos that you're aware of as you're speaking. So you even though you have your opinion, you tread carefully because you're actually trying to make a point and you're not trying to make people upset. Unless you are trying to make people upset, which is a different thing.
Yeah, I see.
So the rest of the man them saying, the man them just fall off, star. What happened to them?
They're sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't think people can
man.
even hear me, People are complaining they can't hear me.
I was letting the reasoning go on there. I feel like Tahaka sleeping though.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone. He's got work tomorrow.
See your mics low still. I don't know what I'm going for your mics still. I can't hear you good myself still, so I don't know what I'm going for them. You hear me?
Maybe they're trolling. Half the people in here are trolls, so maybe they're trolling. I don't know.
What you say
about Yo, COE is the troll channel, fam. Troll Central.
Yeah, you've got so many trolls in your thing now.
You bring out use the gremlins, yeah, the dwarfs. You know what I mean?
Freedom of expression. Yo, COE is like COE is like stepping out into the real world, fam. When you've been sheltered in the wilderness, you get me? No, when you've been growing up sheltered, fam, you step outside when you're once for the first time. See how life really is, you get me? That's what COE is still. It's a social experiment. Anyone can get it. You get me? I want to test how much discipline man got. You get me, car? Like I said, like I see man with the most discipline fall off. You get me? Easy, fam. That's one little slip, fam. They fell off their old thing, their old reputations down the drain. Are I even?
Give me example. No, don't give me exact examples. But what do you mean in the sense of like what?
Witness that, fam. I witness you, fam. I got the receipts. So you talking about? You know what I'm talking about already, man.
This guy.
You know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's an interesting topic as well. Like that connects to.
Big up Ultra Funky, fam. Hey, what you saying? First live stream donation.
Big up.
£2, come on.
There you go.
Yeah.
What I say?
Yeah. When Raven was effing and blinding, fam, at night time.
This guy, this guy's been talking about this for years, right?
Come on.
Of me repeating something back to someone. But you do raise a point though. Like what I was trying to tell people about speaking as well is like, it's ideas over individuals. And some people think that just because someone has a certain kind of persona it doesn't mean that what they say is true or not true, if that makes sense, right? Which we should all understand. That's basic. But it's just like me. It's like I do feel that because I'm not someone who necessarily screams and shouts and F's and blinds, then it's almost like I am also practicing deception because everyone should be effing and blinding when they go to the park. It's like, I don't know, like you know, there's a secret conspiracy, whatever it is. So I think, you know, these things can also play in how people listen to you, your persona, whatever.
Hey, give me one sec. I'm just doing something. You might keep talking still. I'm just doing something in the background still. Yeah, fam.
Yeah.
Man, I have to keep man's cool still. Cause you know we got people watching. You get me, and learning from man's example. You get me.
This guy.
On this guiding thing, you get me? Like, what going? Yeah. All right then. Hey, screen shit. Let's have to come with the Delio, you get me? I make man explain myself still, car. You want a good look still. And man expecting more from man, you get me?
Obviously,
more from man.
CEO was fascinated when I repeated a swear back.
You're talking about, fam. No one try to justify it now, fam.
This guy, but it's like,
Give me
this
one
has
sec.
changed his life. And it's, but you know,
Yeah.
it's changed his life.
Ain't gonna bump, fam.
Yeah.
Oh shit, one sec.
But I think, you can ask.
Yeah, I will do this screen share thing again.
I don't think it worked before when you tried it. Remember, you said that you couldn't get it working.
Don't lie, man. It works, man.
This guy.
I had to
You
do
press
something
the green, like one of the arrow on it.
Yeah.
So
I know it works.
a video of me repeating swear word. This is something that
Raven's intellectually dishonest right now, fam. Because the shame and embarrassment taking over, man. You get me? Oh god. Taking this real quick. And we can see the screen, yeah?
Yeah.
I can't play it.
Let me pin the thing to make sure that
it might not be live though, you know. It might. I don't know if it's gonna appear the live because here we go. Yes, yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. This is Raven losing his rag still. Effing and blinding in the park at night time, man supposed to be guiding, you get me?
Rep Raven said name calling never works. Stay on call.
Sorry, Granddad. Sorry. From the man who was effing and blinding in the park the other day on Sunday. I got them.
Come out of Raven, so we got 91. Gang. Yo, we got 91 people watching and 50 likes. Yo.
Hey, I'm going to pause that real quick. Maybe kind of go too far with that.
Loops. This guy.
That's the evidence, though. You get me?
This guy.
If you got the man them, I might need to get the man them in there still. I have to get the man them. That day was jokes. I used to all some hangouts back in the day. You know, them time there, man was fully offline as well. You know, but yo, I used to be involved still. But yeah, and that's what I'm saying, fam. Anyone like on this discipline thing, anyone anywhere, it only takes one draw out. As I'm trying to tell the man them. This is why I leave trolls in the comment section and all these things there still. I want man to get immune to it, fam. Stay on code, you get me, as Raven always says. Stay on code, and no matter what anyone does, you ain't supposed to make man do nothing that you don't want to do anyway. You know, like that. That's what I feel like still. That's what I'm trying to raise out here, fam. I want like the greatest discipline around me, you get me, sir? Where man's moving and doing a move. Everyone that the move's supposed to get done, you get me? Because man can't get thrown, man can't get taken off track, fam. You get me?
That kind of discipline is what we need when we have collective conversations. You want all the people who are viewing to actually, have a kind of decorum discipline where they don't get drawn out. And one thing I was saying as well that we could contribute to this verbal intercourse is how to actually make the conversation flow better, is to try to actually put your emotions on the shelf. You tell yourself, I will be offended this conversation. And once you declare that, then you're prepared for
it. Yeah, fam. Boy. Oh no, the rest of the man I'm saying still, if man wanna keep on rolling with the show. We got 133 people in the comment section watching the thing. I big up all of the viewers and that. You know, COE is this man's first live show. Like man's been saying for the longest time, and like it's all spontaneous, all over the place. It ain't really like organized well. Man's learning the thing as man go along. You get me? That's how man do the thing still organic. You get me? The thing will grow eventually to a level where man's more proud of the thing. You get me? But right now, it's like got still. So I don't know if the man want to dash anything else in. Man want to cover like in relation to the topic before man look off the thing still. Car, yeah. But people are saying bring man on still. You say he wants to come on the show. Let me know who wants to come on the thing still. Car man's looking to look at us still. What's the man I'm saying though? The man I want to say anything else still. Let me know.
No, the man is sleeping, man. The man are finished.
I've got maybe one more question that I'd like to hear the panel's opinion on. Kev, if you could, like, I know, assign any of the, like, or if you could assign like some homework for like all of the people in Speaker's Corner, or like a reading list, or like sort of a couple of things that you'd want them to kind of find out or know about, or that sort of thing, in order to kind of help them kind of have more effective conversations, or kind of help them be able to find out the truth more effectively. Kind of, what do you think would be the thing that would be most helpful for just kind of sort of everyone to know or read about?
It's a good question, you know. I think I would have them actually watch debates between the elites in their field, as in going. So, for example, if you have vegans debating meat eaters, look at the biggest debates, you know, online, to see how they panned out and the arguments they brought. I think that might be a good start.
Yeah. Other than that, I'd say history. Because 9 times out of 10, whatever the subject is, a firm grasp of the history of it is going to either add to or substantiate your argument. You know, as they say, history is best qualified to reward all research. So yeah, certainly studying the history of your subject with relevant sources.
Yeah, good points. For me, I kind of think it would be cool if everyone had like sort of a grasp of the kind of basic principles in like statistics, because, like, you know, if you want to sort of investigate something in the real world, like, so often the way you're going to have to investigate it is that you have to kind of like take a sample and like compare it to another sample, like, even if it's just like, oh, do we want to find out whether kind of Dutch people are taller on average than English people? Kind of, you're gonna have to do that by like sort of, you can't like look at every single Dutch person and every single English person. You have to kind of like take a sample, then like take the average and compare the average in a kind of hypothesis test. And so it'd be cool if like people, if people like just had like kind of sort of knew a little bit more about that, a little bit more about like sort of probability as well, then people would kind of feel confident to like check next time they kind of read an advert that says 8 out of 10 people agree with this, or next time they see a kind of statistic in the paper saying kind of, oh yeah, a recent study found that 95% of people found this, and they kind of, you know, rather than just like sort of taking it on face value or automatically dismissing it and saying, oh, all statistics are kind of BS, they might kind of think, they might like sort of Google the kind of research and then like check, you know, what's this based on, like what's the sample size, kind of what's the effect size, and kind of is this really a kind of valid kind of study, and even if like kind of they aren't sort of experts, then it would just be like kind of I think in general it would make people kind of a lot less susceptible to kind of disinformation, and kind of yeah, I think it would kind of help a lot in kind of finding out the truth and that sort of thing.
So, I mean, what I could add before we kick, I guess, I guess, James, because you've been speaking more, everything that you believe to know is true. Do you think if evidence came that disproved it, do you think you would follow those evidence?
Yeah, that like the kind of almost everything. Like the the only things that I kind of, I mean, so sometimes there's a difference between what you want to admit is true and what you want to kind of do that's in your own best interests. So you could imagine, like, let's say my job was to kind of say this is true, and I believe it, then someone shows me that it isn't true. I might still want to keep my job, right? That's an example, but I'd still kind of deep down I'd recognize this is true. But like, as far as I know, the number of things that are kind of that there's a conflict of interests within me is kind of very low. So basically all the things that I go to the park to talk about and argue about, if I was shown evidence that they were false, I would admit that they are false, and I'd freely admit that. But I could imagine that, potentially in the future, I could.
You admit it though. Wouldn't you have no problem? I don't know. So, like some things I feel like they're easier said than done, fam. I big up Ali Hassoun as well.
Is that
slapping him pee into the bed?
Is that Egyptian pounds?
Yeah,
is that English pounds?
What's English pounds, fam? You crazy? English pounds, boy. Going straight into the belly fund. You get me?
Public service.
Respect. Yeah. That threw me off still. What was I saying? Yeah. When man get confronted, like if man like you said, you would just change your mind straight away. Still, I don't know how much you've got. You ain't religious or nothing like that. How much have you got invested in the information that you believe is true, that you're being challenged? Like you said, if it was your job, then you would accept that it's true, but
openly,
you wouldn't necessarily like adjust automatically. You get me?
Yeah. But for me, I kind of like have I think pretty strong sense of kind of intellectual integrity, and so if I'm kind of saying something that I kind of know is wrong, then that's actually kind of pretty uncomfortable for me, and so it would have to be a really kind of big incentive or a really kind of important thing within my life for me to kind of have to go through that kind of mental gymnastics or that kind of cognitive dissonance. So as far as like for all the things that I talk about in the park, I would definitely kind of like admit it if I was wrong, and I have done that before kind of several times in the park. But I don't know for certain, like maybe in the future there could be a situation where I feel like it's in my interests not to admit that something is true, but I can't speak about that. That's just like a hypothetical at the moment. It's I would definitely admit it if I was wrong. And
let me ask this question: if you had a parent who was practicing racist, would that be something that you would want to tell the truth on, or would that be something you would keep secret?
I'm not gonna kind of base that. If I did have a parent who was an active practicing racist, I don't think I'd bait them out. Like, not unless if they like have murdered someone, then I probably wouldn't hide that. But like if I just
what?
I said I wouldn't hide that. But if like I know.
No, that's what you said. Are you crazy? You riding this motherfucker to the wheels? You going on the run? Your parents? You're crazy. You don't like your parents?
Yeah, no. But like, I mean, yeah. Who knows what I do if my parents murdered someone? You're right. But if it's just like kind of, let's imagine, kind of I'm sitting at home with my parents, and then like I hear one of them sort of make a racist comment, then I'm not going to like sort of tell the world about that. But that hasn't happened. I've already admitted that I wouldn't say if it did happen, but I'll still ask you guys to trust me that it hasn't happened.
But what about if they were actively?
Is that a logical fallacy?
It's not a logical fallacy. It just shows.
I'm being facetious, but continue.
Yeah. But it shows that kind of perhaps you don't have as much reason to believe me, but I mean, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
What if they were actively trying to like economically cripple non-Europeans? What if your parents was like a supremacist group or anti immigrant group or whatever, and they were actively trying to undermine non-Europeans, would you keep that a secret, or would you try to correct that?
That's an interesting question. I can't tell how, I don't know how I'd react in that situation. Because, you know, like, you know that it's something wrong, but also they're your parents. So it's like what Leon just said. Like, let's say you kind of let's say one of your parents accidentally kind of ran someone over and caused that person to be in a wheelchair, kind of and you'd know that the right thing was to kind of you know, face justice. Like, your parents shouldn't like kind of ruin someone's life due to carelessness and then not kind of admit to it. You know that that's wrong, but also kind of they're your parents, you have loyalty to them, they like kind of raised you and you love them and you have some loyalty to them. So it's you know, it's difficult to say how you'd react because there's a, you know, conflict there. Like, what would your answer be to that question?
Me personally, if my parents was practicing like a open form of like prejudice to the point where they were trying to systematically stop another people group, and those people group were actually, you know, they were on a terrible position already, then my first action would be confront my parents. It'd be the first thing, and you know, I'll give them ultimatums. I would try to find out like, why are you doing this, and here's the reason why I have to stop. You've been rumbled because I I don't think that's cool. And for me, it wouldn't, regardless of if they're my mom or my brother or my best friends. Like, there's certain things I just don't think it's cool if you're actively trying to oppress people for your
Yeah,
own
I
gain.
agree with that. Yeah.
So I
But
would,
like, what about if the, you know, the next stage is like, you know, the only way to stop them is to kind of you know, reveal their activities, and then they're going to kind of go to jail and hate you forever.
um well, it's like this. If they were like, if they were actively oppressing people, uh, then it would be on them. It wouldn't be on me because there's certain things I just don't accept. Like, I don't know. It's like, can you imagine you've got an uncle who kicks children in the head? It's
Yeah,
it's like it's either right or wrong, and
yeah, I agree.
I couldn't I couldn't, you know, the blie I might give him is I have a conversation with him first to let him know that this can't continue. But you know, if he does that, he's sent himself away. You know, right is right, wrong is wrong. So there's no one who could be protected from you know, mass criminal work.
Mm. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Kind of, do you still like? But the last thing you said, like, right is right, wrong is wrong. Do
Mm.
you admit that there are kind of like, there's like sort of a there's a threshold, let's say, below which, if it's like a minor wrong, let's say, like not the kind of actively trying to oppress people example, but let's say it's kind of a less serious wrong, kind of, is there a certain level of evil up to
Yeah.
which you wouldn't kind of sort of betray or reveal, expose your parents for, and then beyond that threshold you would kind of just be like, no, right is right, wrong is wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, I would always try to explore stuff. So if my parents were saying consistently derogative things, especially to people groups who are somewhat oppressed, then I will review where that's coming from, and I'll review if it is manifesting itself in any other way. You know, because sometimes that's the tip of the iceberg is what a person says, right? Because it could actually show what they are doing if you look careful enough. So yeah, there's certain things it doesn't matter who does it, I won't tolerate it. But what I would do for family is actually have a one-to-one to let them know you cannot practice this.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, the next question that might be of interest. Obviously, you come to the park on the atheist tip, and you seem to get a lot of debates with Muslims and stuff. What would a Muslim have to do for you to convert to Islam? This is a what if scenario.
Show good evidence for it, like kind of show they need to show that either that there's good reason to believe that Muhammad is a prophet, or they need to show that there's good reason to believe that the Quran is from God.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And as for evidence that might take, kind of the evidence might be kind of an extremely good record in terms of making prophecies,
Right.
like stating things, having a very good record of stating things that kind of Muhammad knew that no human without access to supernatural powers could know. Unfortunately, kind of I've already reviewed kind of his track record of making prophecies, and it's poor. So, you know, other things might be kind of if they themselves kind of showed supernatural powers and like kind of if like kind of tomorrow the planets and stars aligned and it wrote out in the sky kind of Islam is true, then I'd have to kind of update my belief and kind of lend considerable more credence and belief to the idea that Islam is true.
Right. So let me jump into just add a remix on that. So what if
I want to come in next. I want to come in next.
I'll go, okay, let me last one.
Pause.
What if the evidence was presented and you accepted it as true, it's fundamentally true in your mind? Would you become a Muslim, or would you just carry on living as you are?
If the evidence did come and, you know, I had rational reason to believe that Islam is true, then yeah, I'd become a Muslim.
Okay, because you know, like people like Christopher Hitchens, even if he believed in any kind of deities, whatever, he would refuse to worship them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an interesting one. Like, because where Hitchens I think is coming from there is that he considers kind of the track record of God's actions to be
Detestable.
yeah, detestable. And so that's a slightly different question to the one I'm kind of answering, because I think I'd have to definitely admit that Islam is true. And so, but I guess there's more to that in order to be a Muslim. So if I was similarly of Christopher Hitchens' view that kind of that God's actions are detestable and that he's not worthy of worship, then in that case, I might also be in his boat, where I'd say kind of, yes, I admit that the evidence shows that Islam is true, but you know, you haven't shown that you're worthy of worship. And yeah, I can see where he's coming from on that. I think kind of definitely, if I look at the track record of the actions of God and the kind of behaviors he's sanctioned in the Old Testament and in the Quran, I'd have to kind of take God up to account and say, you know, you've done some bad things. Like, why should I consider you to be the ultimate source of benevolence and goodness in the world?
Right. Ciara, you wanted to jump in? You said.
Yeah. First, let me big up. Modine said I got to big him up because his brethren slapping P in the Benny fund. So I have to big up Modine. Big up Modine. Big up Modine's brethren slapping him P in the Benny fund. I ain't gonna say your name no more, cause Modine's supposed to get the glory. But yeah, I was gonna say James, you see before you used to talk about Islam, like I said, I caught you in one discussion to Gary about consciousness being a product. I mean, the brain being a product of consciousness, and not consciousness being a product of the brain. I saw you talking about that. You get me, like science, biology, stuff like that. You get me. So I don't know, like, what did you use? What type of discussions do you used to engage in, like before you started getting on Islam? Hanging on front, the last, like, the recent history. What I know you to do is talk about Islam a lot still. So I want to talk about what drives that interest and what you used to discuss before that.
No, and so the premise is wrong, because I actually first started coming to the park in response to seeing these kind of videos put up from Speaker's Corner, where a Muslim speaker would be trying to give dawah to an atheist speaker, and they'd be using really poor logical arguments to try and convince them that agnosticism or atheism are both definitely wrong. So they'd say things like, look at this cell phone, you know, it's complicated, isn't it? So it must have a creator. You're even more complicated, therefore you must have a creator. And that's like a really bad argument for reasons like I could go into, and I have done in the past. What's
that quote? in terms of the logical fallacies and all of them thing there?
It doesn't have a specific name. It's just kind of
It's an argument from what? No, what is it? A deductive argument or something like that?
It's a faulty premise, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think it's a faulty premise. Like because like what people should really be asking is not is it complicated, but could this have arisen as a result of unconscious natural processes? So kind of a phone, definitely can't have arisen that way. And so there must have been something that created it, because it has components in it which are not found in nature. And like, for example, all of the kind of pure metals, you don't find pure metals in nature. You find them as ores that you then need to kind of refine. Or silicon, you don't ever find it as a pure element in nature. You only ever find it as a silicon oxide. So that discounts a phone as not having a creator. Whereas you are kind of an animal. Kind of there is good reason to believe that you as an animal could have arisen as a result of unconscious natural processes.
So you're saying you used to see those discussions on YouTube, and it'd be like, "Fuck that, I'm coming down here."
Yeah. I'm gonna sort these people out.
So what? Did you have any? You never used to come with your envelope them time there though. You wasn't really studied in the religion of Islam. It was more to you, the arguments I was using. It was more that, and then I kind of like looked into kind of the claims of Islam and the scripture a bit more carefully, and then I got my folder. You looked into Islam with an insincere heart, meaning your reasons for looking into it wasn't to see whether it's the truth or not. It was to see that it's to find faults in it. That's the reason why you're looking.
Well, the thing is, I think you can.
I'm an apologist right now, still.
Yeah. So I think, like, for example, if you do have a high respect for intellectual integrity, such that it would hurt you to kind of say something that isn't true, then kind of even if you kind of go in with a slight intention, like even if you go in thinking like I want to find out more about this to kind of help kind of show these other people that it's untrue, if while you investigate it you find facts that would lead you to believe the contrary, then due to that kind of intellectual honesty and intellectual integrity, you would it wouldn't matter what your intentions were going in, you'd still have your beliefs overwritten. So like that's the case for me. And so
the reasons are irrelevant. Once you come across the information, you're fair with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
As much as possible.
So now, like you've been discussing with a lot of Muslims. How do you find those discussions going? Are you more like from the day that you saw it on TV to coming down to the park and engaging with people? Are you more enthusiastic about having the discussions, or are you like it's not making any sense? I don't know. Where you at now?
I'm not sure. I
feel like Groundhog Day.
I used to kind of have like things that I wanted to speak about, and like I want to speak to this person, and want to talk about this topic. And so that list has kind of like gotten a lot smaller, and so there's still kind of like a couple of things on it, which if I see the opportunity, then I'll go for it. Otherwise, I want to kind of from now on, I want to sort of take on board some of like the issues that Raven has suggested, and like kind of have more sort of productive intercourse, like effective conversations rather than necessarily arguments. But I'm an imperfect person, and if I get like kind of swept into an argument, then it'll probably be hard for me to resist that. But I'm still quite enjoying Speaker's Corner. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to be here forever or anything.
Yeah. So what are you saying? See your list that you've gone through. What do you say that everybody that you've gone up against, you've done their dance from your perspective? Have you proven them to yourself at least to be liars?
No, I'm not I'm sure they I don't think they're liars, most of them,
You think-
because
you think
they do
believe
genuinely believe
what
their
they're
things.
telling
Some of them
Okay.
are like liars and like propagandists, definitely.
but you've proven their logic to be irrational or something like that. Does that
Not
even make sense?
satisfactory. Like what you really want is for kind of everyone to see that, and so I haven't shown that. I think kind of if someone like is like a kind of rational person who kind of knows the facts, then anyone would like kind of, if they watch
And they're
my
sincere.
I think to a kind of audience who's kind of has the knowledge, then I've done that, but not to like absolutely everyone. So I failed in like kind of communicating to absolutely everyone, like
Okay.
look, this is the case and the other person is mistaken.
So you're saying you got any apostates here?
Yeah, I do. Not as a result of Speaker's Corner, but people I've spoken to kind of sort of
OMG. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. James is claiming he got apostates. Can you believe that shit? Hey yo, you better watch your back now, fam. Only one. Who was it?
I don't get to say any more than that.
Bring him to the park. I get Sucker. Tell Sucko, fam, to get them peas up, fam. I'll show him the contact details so he can put them on camera, fam.
No, they won't go on camera.
If you listen.
I think like, Leon, I think you're getting a little bit off topic from the kind of
I am.
the conversation stuff.
I got gassed up still. Stay on. What you saying? Stay on code.
Yeah,
Stay on code.
Please do.
Yeah, don't jump in now even after James has already done the work of correcting me, fam. Too late, blood. Don't try to take credit for it, fam. You're sleeping on the job. James come and took your job, blood. Yeah, come and get back on top of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's an interesting discussion. I was interested.
Yeah, interesting.
Hey, Shakara, what are you saying? You're in the chat room twice.
He's gone. He's gone. Oh, he's gone? No, he's back.
Yeah, so what? What's the man I'm saying? Anything else man want to add in?
Is there any questions from the people in the chat? Now's your time.
The chat, yeah, there's what's the people them saying in the chat room still before we lock this thing off?
It's mainly talking to themselves about stuff. That's not. No one's
They're having a laugh. They're having a laugh.
They're probably going on mute, to be honest. So.
What you saying? We saying they got the YouTube thing on mute and they're just in the comments guy having a mad.
They're just there to talk to each other.
The sincere ones in it, because it's the we're going for quality, not quantity. You get me? So all the quality viewers watching, good stream, but think you should get a moderator. Yeah, cause I definitely ain't the moderator still. Definitely ain't the moderator. Who would you suggest? Who do you think is fair and balanced in the part that could be a good moderator? That's respected by all of the different sides. You get me? Okay. Yeah, the comments are going too fast, and I need to put them on slow still. You said anything else you man want to talk about before man cut out this thing? And we got a lot of viewers right now, you know. I feel kind of bad leaving, you know. A man like Raj, you know. Raj is the moderator. Hey, what you saying, Raj? You want to be the moderator next time? And still. Yeah, I'll get bare haters if I let Raj come on there and be the moderator. Hey, Shakra, you're doing the most in the panel, you know. You keep adding yourself in twice, you know. Don't know. Oh, I didn't misunderstand you.
I dropped off a minute ago, innit? I had to come in. So sorry if I'm yeah. My internet.
Please, I think our sister Sabrina, she's like, please no. If Raj ever comes on there. Ew. This comment section is jokes still. I ain't never been on the live stream before. I read and missed the comment. I'm always in the comment section. Now man's missing it still. I did that Swede Brown, my brother. Killer bees on a swarm, fam. Come on. Verbal intercourse. Don't know the thing already. Academic screeching.
What does that even mean?
No. What's that? The Intercourse.
I said Shakara's connection got passed down by the ancestors.
Yeah.
I tried to decipher them linguistically still. It's very funny. But yeah.
You think drop out. I'm saying drop out. Can I be a moderator? Hey, Sabrine, come on. I ain't never heard your voice, Sabrine. I don't know if you're even a real person or if you're just a computer. Come on, you can be a moderator still. Yeah. Oh, we need more Isa. Great black intellectuals here. That you slapping in the P for Isa, yeah? Hey, Isa. I'm to give you a cut still. Bigger value wavy ones. Come on, my brother. Hey, I'm just reading out. I'm reading out chat comments now still. No one ain't telling me that I'm going off track. You get me, sir? What's the man them saying?
My feed's delayed, isn't it? So when I'm reading, I'm probably like a minute behind.
I was impressed with Ravens' Dawa skills on James. Man like Jordan M. I big up Jordan M still. He seems like a fair brother from what I know of him so far still. He could come and be a moderator.
Yeah, I want to talk to Jordan M in person. So
Have you ain't never spoken yet? Nah.
Only spoken in live stream comments.
Is he the one that you made a post date?
No. No.
Yo, Jordan. Hey, people get onto Jordan, you know, fam. Choose a white man. And the white man get to the artist still. They want you back, fam. They want you back, blood. Mad thing. Yeah, so intellectual honesty, logical fallacies, even though we didn't really go through it, like man need to really do a show where man just go through the list of them, you know. James done it before me still. I don't know if he pirated my idea, but you only had like 2 people watching still, so it don't really count. You know, not James that's on the panel, the other James. You know, the other James, the small one.
Yeah.
Yeah. He done one, but yeah, I don't know if you heard me say that man wants to do that. I spoke to Rob. I think I was on Manny's show still, so he must have heard that, fam. He probably pirated my idea still and done the thing still, but he done it better than me. He done it better than R1, but no one didn't watch it, so I don't count still. So man need to do one where we just go through the list of all of the different logical fallacies that's like stated, that's got definitions for them, and just go through them one by one, fam, and talk about them. I don't really want to get stuck on unless we can analyze their arguments. That'll be the next thing to do still. That'll be a good thing to do if people are up for that. As long as they know that it's going to be like a clean, ain't going to be, there'll be a bit of banter still, but there won't be no malice. Well, I won't allow no malice to get me if I notice that. But the people that's in discussions, if they mind us analyzing their discussions that man film, and we can go and see if we go through the logical fallacy checklist and see if they on there for any of them. You know, like that, fam. I know you man wouldn't mind. I don't think that you man would mind analyzing any of your discussions to see if that you've been using any logical fallacies. What are you saying?
Yeah, I think you would need to go through an actual kind of filmed example kind of you can't just like kind of look at the list. So yeah, it could be pretty good if you kind of like look through an actual kind of video and did that potentially.
Yeah, dissect it and stuff.
Yeah, but like I said, check academic creature. Man said man soft. Well, true, I don't want to chat people, but I'm a back, fam. Man's fair, you know, fam. I'm a fair you know. Like. I don't like chatting people and they ain't here to defend themselves. You get me? What them call that backbiting? Man, don't backbite, fam. I like chatting people to their face. Still, I tell you to your face, you're a waste, man. You get me? If that's how I feel, but I don't want to chat a man and he ain't here to defend himself. So if people's brave enough, or who's sincere enough, or who don't mind being corrected when they're wrong in public, that are filmed in any discussion, I beg you let me know, and I'll get the other person who you're talking to, I'll ask them the same, and we just analyze the arguments, you get me, and see how clean you are with your discussions. That'll be a good thing still. Righteousness, Ziriab Jamal, big up Ziriab Jamal still. You need to come down as well still. You ain't been in the corner for a minute, so I know you wouldn't mind. Cause I know you're a Muslim probably you and James could get into some discussions. I'll film that, and then we analyze them after still. You get me, sir? Next time you come down to the park. But what are you saying, James? You only come to the park at the gangster hours, though, right?
No, I'll be down at a more kind of better time, but probably not until the new year sometime.
Yeah. All right, saying that, man. So when James starts coming back in the park, in the early hours, when all the other white people are there, Ziri, have you come down? We'll film that, and then we'll analyze it. We'll probably do a show like the following week or something like that, where we just break down the discussion, like looking for logical fallacies and like gaps in the logic, in it, intellectual dishonesty and all them things there. We're gonna analyze still, and hopefully from if this is what another thing that I hope to gain from doing these type of shows, that all of the other people that go Speaker's Corner and discuss, they'll be aware that there's people that are consciously looking at their arguments to see if they're being sincere, to see if we can spot like flaws in their logic and stuff like that. So it'll make them think twice before they go down in front of the camera and start opening them out and chatting bare lies. You get me? Hopefully, you get me? That's one thing. That's the next thing that I hope can be gained from these type of discussions. It is still. Yeah, academic speech. David, the white people hour still. In the morning, I don't know if you man the park. What's the word I'm looking for? Not dynamics. The
atmosphere.
When you live in a certain area, the demographics. Yeah. When it's morning, that's when it's mostly white people there, and there's fewer minorities. But as it starts getting darker and darker, that's when the minorities come out still. it is what it is. It is what it is. But that's when James comes out as well. James comes out. James gives me jokes still. He comes out with his Queen's English and he goes behind the tea hut to the gulliest places, fam, where everyone's smoking weed and that. He don't even smoke weed. And he want to start talking about Islam and that. I like James, he's a lot still. But yeah, we want to get the discussions going still. Intellectual, honest discussions, you hear me? And we film that, analyze it, break it down, go through and see how we just do it like that, man. What's the man name's thoughts on that?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I give my consent to that. Sounds good.
That sounds good. All right, man, I'm going to kick it. So, nice discussion. We should do it again. And we will see if we can analyze some of his behavioral patterns in the park in future times.
Yeah, same as man needs to meet right as well still.
All right.
Saying that, man. Bless up the man them for rolling through COE's first live show. Bless up the audience them as well. Big up Ali for dashing in and peeing to the Bentley fund. I want you to know that them man ain't getting 1 penny from that. It's going all into my pocket. Probably gonna ruin it. Probably gonna buy some expensive capitalism trainers or something like that. I'm gonna waste it.
Find your equipment for the camera.
Raven, you already know I'm sensible, fam. I'm ramping with the audience. I'm ramping. I have to make them think that man's ignorant. I like it when he got low expectations of me. You get me? Then I can just people see them. You get me? But yeah, I'm gonna squander that money. I'm gonna buy some shiny things to get in the girls that are easily misled. You know like that? Respect. Make sure you keep on slapping in peace. Make sure you keep on slapping in peace so we can keep doing it large like that. But yeah, hopefully in the near future we put on some more shows. They develop and get better. We get a more different variety of guests on. You get me? We get moderators. We do the thing large, man. You get me? But yeah, respect for everybody for coming through.
And quickly press like before you leave. Yeah, so everyone
ain't on the front still. Even though I appreciate man saying that. I don't know if you've ever heard me say hit the like and rare. I know it helps the YouTube algorithms and all them things there still. But I've always been a man. Time I heard people say that back in the day, this is even before I was watching the Speaker's Corner videos. I used to be like, why is man telling me to like? If I like something, I like it, innit? I'm gonna press the like button. I used to be like that, you get me? So I was anti, you get me? So I ain't gonna come right now. Even though I do appreciate when other people do it for me. You get me? I ain't gonna front like I don't appreciate it still, but yeah, I don't know. I feel fun.
So
I feel funny asking man to press the like button.
Well, 57, we can do better than that. If you like COE and the hard work he does week to week, press a like.
I think you have to work it out anyway, man. Can't get a bag of haters who thumbs down the thing, but they're always there. You get me? They're consistent. They're consistent followers still. Yeah. on that final note as well, for the haters, all of the haters. Big up Flossie Carter as well. Cause I got this from him still. Ain't even my own thing still, but all of the haters, all of the trolls. I want you to close your eyes. Just picture me rolling.
Yeah. We touch the children, man.
You know, like that, fam. But yeah, that's it, man. Unless the man want to say anything else, still, man's out. Still, man's about to hit the offline button.
I'm gone.
Yeah, that's done, fam.
Yeah,
it's good.
Thanks for the show, Leon.
Please.
Cool, man. Yeah, make sure you man come on the next one as well, man. We're gonna do it larger next time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Peace, man. All of the Google gangsters in the comment section saying the worst things about my mother, you know. My dear mother, you know how much I love my mother. The man are dissing my mother, you know. Yo, close your eyes and picture me rolling, man. See how we out. Peace.